Hello. Hello. How we doing? We have Major Zine here already. Or probably Oats. Very likely it's Oats. Oh man, we're gonna have ourselves a good conversation today. I can feel it. I can sense it. It's gonna be good. We're gonna have a good time. And hopefully I don't press any extra buttons I didn't need to. It's Oats, just don't tell the other guys it's me. I'm just you're just a Z. That's true. We have ourselves a good time happening pretty soon. We're going to be talking with That's good. That's good. That we can all hear you. Ha 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 ha. Good. I just want to make sure I can be heard. I'm just glad that that is being confirmed. If for some reason I can't be heard, make sure you put muted in the chat. I'm gonna see it play a little different. It's gonna look like that to me. If you type muted with a capital M, if for some reason I can't be heard. So remember that, y'all. But I'm going to be reaching out to our guests, and let's see if we can have ourselves a good chat. I'm reaching out to them, and hopefully everything turns out just fine. All right. Ooh, looks like our guests are ready. I'm gonna start the call right now. All right. Let's see what's happening. Hopefully Discord works. Oh no. Discord's failing. Hello? Can I be heard? Can I be seen? Can I be heard? I mean, I hope so. Join video call.
Yeah.
Hello. Hey, there we are. There we are. Oh my god, this is awesome. Hold on. Let me get something slightly situated.
And let us know if there's any echo. We have you just on the speakers right now, so
no, it's totally fine. So right now we can be heard. But I'm gonna throw it to our actual little interview screen. So y'all should be fine. If I put it over here in the YouTube link, so that we all have the ability to see each other. So you actually see just me. And everyone else is going to see a fun little layout.
So we have it up on the second monitor just to make sure we're not screwing things up too much.
I had a problem with that with Oats on the last one. We had a conversation, and a good, I want to say about 25-35 minutes of like really great conversation just became lost forever. It was great.
Oh, wait, and you're with a major, or?
Yes, this was our second one. My mic was muted, but only to the stream, not necessarily to anyone else. So it just sounded like we had a normal conversation happening, at least in my headphones. But to everyone else, I was just reacting like a madman, not saying a damn thing, while he was actually having a great conversation. Some of our topics that went lost into the ether forever involved Oats and drag, any legacy folks that he wanted to help and prop up to continue on the zine and zine culture, more drag, I think punk shows, and finally creating an additional drag persona. So lots of drag.
All the right mixes of things though in there.
But it was a good time though. I ended up cutting that part out, but you can still see the rest of the conversation. It's great. Have y'all ever heard of the drag queen bitch pudding?
I have not.
I have not either, sadly.
This is slander. There was no drag talk. Lies, Oates. There totally was. There was 3 different occasions where drag ended up getting brought up to it. Also, a cowboy persona, and something else. But anyway, bitch pudding is a drag queen. If you thought to yourself, drag is awesome, but it needs to be more spooky. Then bitch pudding's definitely one of your folks. They ended up winning, I think, season 3 of a show called Dragula, which is RuPaul's Drag Race if you wanted it to be centered around spook and horror and some other good stuff.
That seems phenomenal. I'm not like super into drag. I feel like I should be. I feel like it's this it's like disconnect with the community I'm a part of or something. But I had a few friends in college who would perform in drag, and I know the one he won some kind of competition.
Shit.
And he was great, but saw a few in college. They made me watch RuPaul a few times, and I can't say I didn't enjoy it. So
I bet. I know it's funny for the amount of like small micro niche knowledge I know about it. Like I don't know really much about it either, other than I think there's like 4 spin-offs of the original RuPaul's Drag Race, and there's like 30 seasons. It's been going on for a long time. Real quick, did y'all like experience snow not too long ago?
Well, we're in northeastern Ohio, so yesterday, yeah.
Okay. It was funny because over here in SoCal, I don't know if you heard the news, we experienced snow. And it got to the point where they actually shut down one of the roads and I couldn't go to work for one of my days, and my boss told me, "Hey, I know you live kind of far, and I know you live right where there's actual snow. Don't come in." And I was like, "Yes, I know that wasn't the plan." So like that was like the weirdest thing we had to deal with for a while was the fact that we had to deal with snow. I think the last time it snowed, particularly where I grew up, which is close to where I work, in like the most like north part of LA County. I want to say it was like in the early 80s. So that was the last time we had snow, at least down there. But people are stuck and are like, well, no one's going to work no more. So we couldn't deal with that. I was like, oh boy, snow, because supposedly it snows up here where I'm at now. But never dealt with that. And I think to myself, it's fun to see, but anyone who actually wants to like, or anyone that actually lives in that, it just sounds like a nightmare to me.
Usually, it's always one of those, like, I think it's romanticized and it looks so cool, and you'll even stare at it for a while and go, oh, everything's so pretty outside. And then you actually like go outside and it's horrible.
You have to deal with the outside repercussions.
Until you actually need to go outside and do something, and then it's like horrible.
Yeah, that's definitely not something I would want to partake in all the time. And y'all didn't have to get evacuated at all either. Because East Palestine's not that far, or is not that close to y'all, is it?
So we're I want to say probably like 2 hours or so, like northish, northwest.
Okay.
We were good. I'm pretty sure I smelled something in the air like a couple days after it happened. Like
that's all kinds of bad.
I worked with Cintas, like the uniform company that does mats and stuff. And at like 6 o'clock in the morning, we're at this place that always smells horrible. It's some kind of metalworking place.
Yeah.
And really, really industrial, like the kind of guys who wear all of the FR, like high vis, thick coveralls, that kind of thing. And the guy I'm with can't smell at all.
Oh no.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, it smells really weird here. And he's like, yeah, it always, I'm sure it always does. Like it's gross as hell. And I'm like, no, it smells weird. And I think I did. I don't know. It was like 3 days after it happened. We had our own explosion, I
What?
guess. Close to Bedford, Ohio, Oakwood Village is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they ever figured out what happened, but there was some explosion in the middle of the day, and it took out an entire, God, like 3/4 of a industrial building, and I
Jesus.
think only one person ended up dead. Well, not
The-
thankfully somebody died, but like it could have been way
it could have been
worse. Is what
worse.
I'm
It could
saying.
have been way worse. Oh man, I know like two things about Ohio. Apparently, there's like a mall that's out there that got referenced in like some like movie, and there's a place where there's a lake called Mosquito Lake, and that's all I know about Ohio.
It's there's a lot of corn.
I think
It's yeah, there's a lot of corn, and it's kind of a general hellscape, but
It's home and we love it.
I mean, it's at a certain point, it sounds like Stockholm more than anything.
yeah, I'm not gonna disagree.
No. We've been blabbing for a little bit. Before we actually go into any real conversation. Hi everyone. Wave to the cameras, wave to the crowds of I don't even know how many people are watching, probably like 4, who cares? This is Straight as Jesse. This is Joffrey Plays the Channel. And I have here two folks that are associated with a real cool project, I think. Do you all want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Lauren. You know who, I guess, as a tag.
Oh, I'm Mike or Blanket for my tag.
And I guess what, maybe about almost 2 years ago, I think at this point, we just kind of were shooting some ideas off of something creative to do together, and we ended up with Knockout. So, like it was, I think I was grocery shopping and I called him when I was living in California, and I'm like, hey, do you want to like try doing something in Smash? And I think I explained it probably for like, I don't know, 10 minutes straight monologue. And I think that he probably just went, yeah, that sounds cool.
I'm familiar with that exact type of interaction. Like just so you know that how I got aware of y'all. So a while back I was talking to Oates from Major Zine, and he was talking about his experiences at Genesis, and I guess Oates kind of either ran into you either at a bar or something, or at one of the after parties or after somethings, and y'all connected and started chatting it up. And he explained a little bit of like some of like a little bit from your like your background and some of the stuff that you've done in the past. And I'm like, yo, that's super cool. And cut to probably about like 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm trying to like, schedule out some talks because like I try to do these like a once a month, or I'm trying to set it up that I'm doing about once a month. And I'm like, does anybody have any great suggestions? And Oates said, hey, remember those folks I was telling you about? And I was like, oh, that'd be great to connect. And then literally probably about an hour later, I shot y'all a DM of some sort, asking if you wanted to be on. And I'm like, huh, this is cool. So I know very little about what y'all do and kind of like y'all's like involvement with Smash. Kind of what I really want to know is like, just so we can lay a little bit of the groundwork. Where did you start, either with Smash or this project? And like, aside from like that, like random inspiration from grocery shopping in California, where like, is there like any kind of like story behind that, or is it just literally an apple? Wait a minute.
You were involved with Smash before me.
Yeah, I got into Smash, I think, for pretty much I started going to tournaments in 2015.
Okay.
Like I remember in 2012 I saw USA versus the World Crew Battle.
Ooh, nice.
It was just on YouTube. And then I saw this, like, the second match I watched was a Ken versus Scar, commentated by this one guy. I had no idea who he was. It was just like a bearded guy. And then I was like, who are these two random players? Like, I can probably beat them up in Melee because, I'm probably the best Marth around. This Marth isn't using counter. I think counter is the best move in the game. Like, why aren't you just spamming it?
Yep.
And then, like, after that, learned pretty quickly how deep, like, the rabbit hole went with Smash. And so, yeah, now it's basically part of an identity. And I love it, yeah.
And we've been friends for, how long has it been? Like 8 years, maybe?
Yeah, I
Something
think
like
like 2016, 2015.
Whatever that math is. And he would always watch tournaments if we were like away at like conventions or something as friends. And then when I was in college, I just started watching, whatever major was on during the week. And actually, I kind of fully got into Melee competitively when I was living in California. I was working out there for a summer, basically. And I was away from all my friends in Ohio, and I don't know, I ended up just like trying some stuff out. It was a fun way to just talk to them while I, dicked around with a controller, I guess. But and then yeah, we just talked about it more and just I guess like I remember one night I was out there and the time difference between the two. It was like you and another friend of ours. We stayed up on a call to watch. It was one of the Smash summits, the one where Mango came back in losers and beat Zayn. Was it like 8? I think.
No, that was 11.
Oh my god.
Game 10 last stock where they're that was the first in-person summit back.
Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, I remember we all stayed up to watch that, and I think like that was probably like a big ticking point where I'm just like, this is really cool. Like, let's do something.
It's funny because like I feel like I didn't get into Smash like deeply into it very recently as well. I think probably so my general story is my brother showed me the Smash doc, I want to say in about like 2017 or so. I watched it. I thought it was great. I wanted to start getting into watching it. I wanted to start getting into watching competitive. It's been announced that Smash Ultimate's coming out, so this is like 2018. I start watching tournaments, then I actually start playing. Just trying to see what I like doing during that time frame. But I didn't really get really deep into it until probably about Summit 8, which was the one where Axe had won, where his like trophy is that little duck that looks like like it's like a little Falco looking duck. And since then I've really dove deep into it. I don't know how old y'all are, but like I am now in my 30s. So like I started getting into it and watching it and kind of like spectating it in a way, kind of late in life, because I spent most of my time during what could have been considered golden age, especially in SoCal. I was going to a bunch of backyard shows. I was going to all the punk shows, the ska shows, the metal shows out there, psychobilly shows and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't until way later on that like I really kind of got into it. And funny enough, like some of those people have like a huge crossover with Smash. One of the head TOs out here for one of the bigger scenes is his name's Jerry out of the crew Top Shelf Esports. So they brought back MSM under MSM 0, which is one of the bigger like weekly or bi-monthly locals that happened for Ultimate before lockdown. and he also had hosted this melee tournament called Friday Night Turnip, which is very familiar to Oates because apparently he lived out here in SoCal when all of that was transpiring while Jerry was running those melee tournaments. We had a conversation after catching up many years later, actually on this channel, and he says, yeah, like all his time in the music scene, all that DIY aspects of and attitudes has really kind of helped push his work ethic to kind of like push forward what he was doing with Top Shelf and everything that he does around the Smash scene. All of this to say is, hey, I know we're going to talk about Smash, but I heard that there are some punk stories we want to get, and I kind of want to get into some of that. And I'm going to assume that came before Smash. Is that right?
Yeah. I've dragged him into it more recently, but so I don't know, I got into like just general punk and like the I don't know, the stuff that like a 12, 13-year-old finds. Like I think at the time like Pandora was the big thing.
Yeah.
So like, Anti-Flag, NoFX, Bad Religion, the more classic stuffs like, Descendants, Minor Threat, the big bands, I guess. And at one point I had like showed some to my cousin. He's a year younger than me. And I don't know, he kind of got into it too. And so as we got older and when we were like in high school, he got really into it and started going to shows. And then he would ask me, I play a little bit of brass, a little bit of guitar. And so he'd ask me to do like some brass instrumental. There was like a Battle of the Bands kind of event, I guess, at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame one year. And he had me do a trumpet part for a few of their songs. And it's one of those things I think like my mother still has, but it was like front page of the Plain Dealer, like Cleveland's local newspaper, was, a picture of him, the really classic profile of the really big mohawk.
Yeah.
And then me playing the trumpet like in front of a punk, I guess, like band of like high school kids. But then, I started going to a few things around there, and he started forming his own bands and just playing for different groups, and I don't know, playing at random bars at like, a younger age than, you could order a drink at one.
Which is, that's just how it is.
Yeah. And it's just kind of continued that way. And now my cousin lives at a place that hosts shows like frequently. I want to say that there might have been one last night. There's one tonight that we might end up going to.
Nice.
And then there's like a St. Patrick's Day show next week. Pretty much at least I think like one or two a week, but they're one of the bigger, I guess, like DIY houses in the northeastern Ohio area. And they've had some really good names of groups that have played there. Mephistopheles played there a while back. Apes of the State basically keeps it on their Midwest tour list every year.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty fun ones. I know Do It With Malice was planning to come out here and do a show or two. But yeah, it's just one of those like you kind of grew up in. It's fun, and there's something weirdly comforting about a grungy basement that smells like beer and sweat.
That reminds me of like this conversation I'd heard. It's always kind of fascinating where, especially during like formative years, like this weird sense of tribalism that we find and where we find that tribalism. Like for me, I got into punk in general. Grungy basement that smells like beer and sweat sounds like Smash. Exactly. I got into punk in general because my cousins actually got me into metal first, and it was a lot of the new metal stuff that was coming out at the time. So there was like a lot of Papa Roach, there was a lot of POD, System of a Down, until eventually some of my friends in middle school, who were into all the same bands anyway, we started like really getting into punk music. And the first real punk band I got into was the Casualties, which for me at the time, I mean, this was all before all the shit with fucking Jorge came out. Like,
Mhm.
we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to gloss over that. But like part of the reason why for me the casualties were a great entry point was because there were songs in Spanish, and um because like where I went to school wasn't like in my where I immediately lived. There wasn't like a big, it was a large enough Latino population where I went to school, but it wasn't like big enough where I felt comfortable a lot of the time. So for my friend who's, he's a white guy showing me, "Hey, there's this band that has songs in Spanish." And I was like, "Oh shit, this is awesome." I later, went down all the rabbit holes of like all the punk bands that I can, and then I want to say like my first backyard or like local show was this place that was in the valley called the Cobalt Cafe. Now, Cobalt Cafe, they didn't just have like cool like DIY shows and everything. They also had, like, before they changed their name to Linkin Park, they hosted Hybrid Theory. They've had Incubus. They've had like a lot of huge talent, and also like all the little crust punks that would be running around through there because they needed a place to go hang out. I saw many bands there. I spent many a nights being kicked out of the venue because they had to air it out because all the condensation from their sweat would short out the equipment if they didn't let everybody out. And back to the main point I was gonna say, like, it's crazy how like this kind of form of tribalism of like what captures us and like what captures our imaginations and like the weird identities we want to like push around. And from time to time, they just cross over into something different. Like my tag, straight edge, was from the fact that like I was literally the only straight edge guy around that like wasn't an asshole. So like folks knew me, right? And for that reason. And again, there's like this weird thing too. Like sometimes when you identify somebody, it's just like a great shorthand to say, "Hey, I can talk to that guy." And at the very least, we can say, "Hey, I see you're wearing a Crash t-shirt. I see you're wearing a Discharge t-shirt." Like that's something that like kind of sticks with me. And now as I've gotten older, like those kinds of things are kind of like far and few between to see. And the closest thing that I have to that now is the fact that like now I'm into Smash. And if I go to like a tournament or like something, aside from the fact that I'm there in the first place, I could be wearing this shirt right here, which, SoCal Smash, shout outs to Rival ZSS. I bought it off him at MSM Zero. Well, actually, it was his wife, but whatever. Yeah. And it's just a continuation of that, like finding your tribe that like it crosses over very well. And, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see those kinds of things, and really from other people's perspective. Because again, I know my stuff. I don't know how it is for y'all. Ohio's might as well be another fucking country.
Sometimes feels like it. Our area, I think, is like, I don't know, if you're into that kind of stuff, I feel like we're lucky, and it feels like it like shouldn't belong here, but it's like one of the greatest havens to have, I think, in a place like this. Like,
Mhm.
there has been like a lot of legislation that I don't particularly agree with that targets minorities in the state of Ohio, and it just
Mhm.
seems to get worse and worse as the day goes on.
Oh yeah.
And through the entire time I've been involved with just going to shows and knowing people within the DIY scene, there's basically two house rules. You know, don't be like hateful towards a thing, like any group of people, and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And if you can do those two things, you belong here. Um, and it's always been one of those places that no matter what you look like, no matter what you sound like, what you identify as, you're allowed to come and enjoy the music and just talk to
Mhm.
people, or not, And it's really cool because like the house my cousin helps run, it's a cling thing. But we've had God, maybe 3 or 4 that are all within like a 20-minute vicinity of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been cool. It's like you could literally go to a show at one house, and then by the time that's like wrapping up, go over to a different house and see another show that'll last until like 2 or 3 a.m.
Yep.
Depending on the day, and that's always been really cool. But
And sir, do you like, so, apparently you were being dragged into this more recently. I'm guessing you didn't really have many experiences with like punk music or anything like that, or is more recently kind of your introduction to it?
Like as of now, I'm more so into it. I think the first time was over at her cousin's show. Like it's a clean thing. We ended up hosting a Smash tournament there.
Yeah.
But I can contest that just like seeing the mixture of just like Smash players and punk like enjoyers just like mesh together.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing. Like people that I didn't think that would jam out were jamming out.
Mm-hmm.
And even me, like I don't know a lot about music, but like halfway through the night, like I'm there as well, just like jamming. It's just amazing to be a part of like that.
That night that he's talking about, that was like, it was, I think, kind of in my brain at least, like, let's keep trying to do this like direction. Like, it was small, but my cousin had hit me up and he was like, hey, one of the guys in the headlining, I guess, band that's playing is really, really into Ultimate. We want to do a little bit of a tournament. And so it was going to be an outdoor show.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they had like a little porch in the back and like a decent amount of space for a crowd. It was right when restrictions on COVID and like general safety was starting to get a little bit better. So outside was cool. And they had like a really good lineup just of general bands. It was a lot of like, I guess, kind of more hardcore thrasher type of stuff.
Like crossover thrash?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. I vaguely remember like a Limp Bizkit cover, and then
that's awesome.
But it was a good combination. And honestly, I'm complete. The bands that played, they're slipping my name at this point, but I do still follow those guys. But we provided some of like our early like shirts and stuff, helped them get all the TVs set up, and then we had people that just heard about it from. I don't even know where, because Wesley, my cousin, was all in charge of advertising. I don't know where he posted stuff. We had like, some people coming in who may not, I'm not going to say either way, but may not have ever been to like a show like that, where it's a bunch of, a variety of
degeneracy. Come on, let's be
somebody
real.
who looks like, if you're a little sheltered, if you like look at them the wrong way, they might punch you, but are actually like a cuddly teddy bear. A lot of piercings, tattoos, the punk jackets, that vibe, right? The crust punk vibe.
Yeah.
But it worked out well, I think. Like that night, I remember my cousin brought me up. You can climb kind of on the roof of their shed in a really weird way. And he brought me up there, and I remember just like seeing it all, like when the sun was going down, and that was just like something really cool to witness. And I remember talking with like a few people, both from like the punk side and the Smash side, but I always kind of thought that Smash was like the punk of video games, I guess, at least community wise,
especially in the FGC.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of an outlier, maybe not for everyone, but close-knit community that'll just like you'll find your place in. And also it's like built from the ground up, completely DIY, and I don't know, counterculture, if that's like still a word that we use. But
it's funny because it is true. There's and I say it's like definitely the case because again, going back to my the conversation that I had with Jerry, is you'd be amazed how many people who came from that DIY background, whether it be from punk music or whatever, any kind of DIY activity. There's just so much crossover with small tight knit stuff, like especially how like if you want to talk about how like the FGC started, they all started because, at least in New York, it started because a bunch of people went into like this arcade that had all the fighting game cabinets, and it was super dangerous to go there, but you went there anyway, right? And they kind of built up their scenes in a way that really does reflect like going into like a random backyard show, or going into like an abandoned like steel mill and saying, I think we can turn on the electricity for one night and not get raided. Let's do it, right? Or that those kinds of like those kinds of stories of trying to find the weirdest place possible to find a show are literally like the same thing as finding the weirdest place possible to sometimes find a tournament, right? Like, I want to say, what was the weirdest place I went to a show? I mean, abandoned parking lots are pretty fun. I said Steel Mill because that happened because I saw Star Fucking Hipsters play there with Nino Zombie, and eventually just turned into like a leftover crack show. I want to say, oh God, somebody's house that I think people were actually squatting in. I don't think they were supposed to be there legally, but we were there. Right? But like by comparison, like if you think about like some of the weird places where tournaments happen, it's restaurants, it's random small mom and pop shops, people's garages. Sometimes they take over a house and there's way too many people in there, so it's probably just as bad as like trying to see like a 6-piece ska band that also sounds like they play Agnostic Front in a living room. Right? It's just very there's a lot of crossover, and to me there's a lot of crossover appeal. The point that I wanted to make is, and it's escaping me because I tend to just ramble, was it's surprising how many of those people who came from like a punk background or like a small metal scene ended up in Smash in general. Like, a funny thing that I have heard was, if you look at anyone who is, in like their late 20s and early 30s, and they work in video production, if they work in costume makeup, if they work in any kind of like that industry related, you can trace their lineage all the way back when they were all scene queens. And it just there's that lineage that just goes all the way through, because we had to build up what we had, or build up what we wanted to build up with what we had, or at least make it look like we had as much as we did. You know what I mean? So that's definitely what I see. So like, God, I'm just trying to imagine that visual that you said, like just standing on the top of a shed and just seeing. That's awesome.
It was like that classic thing too, right? Like a couple of guys just flinging their arms and legs around with no care in the world, like a good girth or space right in front of the band. It was a cool shot. I have a video of it somewhere.
It exists somewhere. What's been like one of the funnest or weirdest shows that you've ever been to?
So not a DIY show, but
Okay.
in music in general. The first time I ever saw Streetlight Manifesto live,
Ooh.
apparently they like playing in Cleveland. I don't know if that's maybe just like anecdotal or something, but
Yeah.
the first time I ever saw them, I want to say 15, and I was going with two people I knew in high school. And all I remember is the second they started actually playing,
Mm-hmm.
the crowd just like rushed together so much, and I wish I was over exaggerating, but I jumped up at one point and I didn't come down. Like the crowd was just so tightly packed.
Yep,
My legs
I
were
know
just kind of
that.
like dangling there. And at the time, the House of Blues in Cleveland would just kind of spray people with the water from the bar. And that was, I think, like as far as a show period, my absolute favorite memory, because it was like, I don't know, I just that feeling of absolute exhaustion and like how many people there were. And like hearing that music like live too, like they're
Yeah.
still probably my favorite band to see live, period. But
There's that one line in Moment of Silence. He actually walks away. If you ever noticed, or if you remember, and when they play Moment of Silence live, that line where he says, "If you hate me so much, then stop singing my songs." He walks away from the mic, and he never actually sings those lyrics because he's like, "All right, I'm
yeah,
over the reason why I said that." Yeah, the first time I saw him, which was the only time I ever saw him, it was somewhere in Hollywood, and I want to say it was me, my little brother, um, the friends we carpooled with, and then like 4 random people that we saw at the show. We were the only brown skinned people there. And like they knew immediately who we were because I wore a bandana over my face all the time. Just from, going to a backyard show, you wear a bandana to not get mud in your lungs. So I just always had it. But occasionally I would wear the Mexican flag as a facial covering. And when a dude turned around and he sees me for the first time, his eyes just go wide like because he sees another Mexican in the crowd. It was probably one of the funnier things that I experienced there. The other day, and this is probably one of my other favorite ones. The other day, it said one of my favorite phrases I said all week was, "I may have been a degenerate, but I'm not some kind of barbarian."
yeah, I did see that, and I really need to know more about this.
All right. So, there was this band back in the day. I'm pretty sure they don't play anymore. They're called Death Valley Meth Lab, and they probably were one of like the older bands from like the late '90s, early 2000s that played in the LA area. They actually came back for a little bit, and they were real cool. The singer can be described as a cartoon character. He goes by Shotgun Mike, and his story is he actually used to be in the military, but he became all disillusioned with the government and society and the military. But he still kept a lot of his military garb. So he would paint his face in camouflage makeup, no shirt, his camouflage pants, and his boots that he had when he was serving. His microphone was a modified sawed-off shotgun, where he took all the guts out so it couldn't be active, and where you would put the shells is where he would stick in the cable for the mic. So when he would sing into it, it looks like he was about to blow his face off with the shotgun. So a lot of theatrics for that, right? And there was a lot of fake blood. At least I hope it's fake blood, because because when I first saw him, it was at that place, the Cobalt. He got like he went to a butcher, and he got like this goat head that was skinned, and he threw it out to the crowd, and we all proceeded to play soccer with it, and it made its way back, and he put it on the mic stand, right? He was also throwing a bunch of baggies of weed and different a large variety of pornography out into the pit, and that was pretty crazy, right? A couple months later, I end up going to some backyard show, and Death Valley Meth Lab is going to be there. So at that point, a bunch of other like local punk bands were playing. They ended up setting up, and again, full makeup. Again, no shirt. It's winter, but it's California winter, so it's only really about like 50 degrees. So that's whatever. More what I hope is fake blood, just sprayed all over his body. And again, he gets out another goat head. throws it out into the crowd. Everyone bursts out of the way because, like, we're too drunk for this. Me, the straight edge guy, I was all like, hey, that seems fun. So I grab it, and I was just running around going like this, like a little Pac-Man going waka 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 throughout the crowd. I hand it back to him, and he goes, "Hey man, thanks." And he puts it on the what's it called? He puts it on the mic stand, and I was like, "Oh man, this is so awesome." But then I reach into like my little pouch that I made out of like a back patch and some like zebra fabric, and I get my hand sanitizer because I need to clean up. And like I said, because I may have been a degenerate, but I'm not some kind of fucking barbarian. You gotta have some decency. The funny part about that too was like later on, I go to school. I'm going to school. It's Monday morning, or not Monday morning, Monday afternoon, and I'm walking down the side of the hallway. And out here in SoCal, all of our campuses are pretty open. Like it's not like all contained in one large building. Like we have strips of buildings in open hallways. But because SoCal has a bad school system and way too many kids, they had to build bungalows and throw classrooms into there. So I'm walking down the side and I'm going down towards my next class. And I see this dude sitting on the railing in the bungalow. And I've seen him before. And he goes, "Hey, man." Well, I'm like, "What? Hey, you're the dude with the goat head, right?" I was like, "Yeah, that was pretty fun." He's like, "Dude, that freaked me the fuck out, man. I've never seen that shit ever in my life." I was like, "Oh, sorry. My bad." It's like, "No, man, it's cool. See you around." And I never saw that guy ever again. And I think aside from the goat head incident, I think probably the other favorite show I went to was there's this local crew called Evacore Media. They put together all of like the skacore punk bands shows. Our definition of skacore basically comes from a lot of influences like Voodoo Glow Skulls. I don't know if you've heard the band called Scape from Spain.
No.
They're based out of Spain. But there's another one called Sectacore. Now Sectacore is out of Mexico. Imagine if Agnostic Front and the Misfits decided, hey, we need to sing in Spanish and have horns in our band. So a lot of his influence from that. So they decide, hey, we're gonna have like a celebration of LA music. So we're gonna try to make it as big as possible, 2-day event. And probably my favorite part about that wasn't the fact that we saw Voodoo, wasn't the fact that we saw like all these bands that we loved. It was the fact that in the middle of the parking lot where the big stage was considered to be held at, there was a lucha ring. So mass wrestlers were having a good time, and we were watching mass wrestling while watching bands talking about being oppressed for being able to speak Spanish on the other end. And that was probably part of the peak.
Like just trying to imagine that, I guess. Man, that seems like a nearly comical, but
it was so funny. Like, I think probably my favorite part about the lucha was there was a guy who was dressed as Spider-Man, and they were automatically the hero of the wrestling match. the guy who was wrestling against tries to throw him out of the ring, and he captures himself in the ropes, and he's just like hanging there suspended. And he goes, "What's up?" The crowd explodes. So yeah, it was very comical, to say the least. So we given a huge side tangent on music, and I'm glad I was able to tell you my barbarian story. I kind of want to ask a little bit of like, what are y'all's Smash origins? Like, I know you said something similar to, or something to the effect of like, you kind of were like around it a little bit and then playing around while you were out here. And I don't think, Blank, I don't think you even said like where you first picked up a controller essentially, but what's your origin stories when it comes to that?
So, origin story wise, I think the first tournament that I went to regularly, I want to say started with Kent Combo.
Mm.
Like it was around the time where Project M was sort of like the hot new thing.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the first time I went to Kent Combo for Project M, I ended up taking it. And then after that, it was just, well, whenever I could, every Friday, just like go down there, play Melee.
Hmm.
A couple months later, played some Smash 4, and just like flip flopping between the two there.
Mm. Like,
Yeah.
so was PM like your first like competitive or like
Oh no, Melee was definitely the first competitive game
okay.
that I really got into.
Like where did like where did you first like find anything competitive in general when like hey, this is a thing and like well, I guess I can like attempt to go to one of these.
Like, so I know it started, I guess, with Melee. It started off like way back in the day. You know, just like playing it with a group of friends. Older brother comes downstairs. Oh, I
Mhm.
remember this game. I'm the best at this game.
Mhm.
And then like me and him duke it out. He wins. And then like next year, I face him, and it's just like I beat him. And then after that, just sort of looking more into it, found like random clips online of like I think Magic Grumpy was a channel way back in the day where like he
Oh.
did a Young Link combo video.
Mm.
So found out like the different things you could really do with it.
Mm.
And then once I was finally able to drive, like actually going out there and just competing with anyone that I can play with.
Was that kind of hard to do like early on? Was that like Smashboard days or like what's like the like approximate
I
time
think
frame?
I want to say like 2013 to like 2015
Okay.
was like the most difficult because it was strictly my experience was like people that would hang out with.
Hmm.
You know, occasionally a church would like host a tournament. Occasionally like GameStop would host something.
Hmm.
And so that'd be like the only thing that I would really be able to go to.
Mm. Was it just like was it because it just really wasn't around or like there wasn't really a way to find out?
So I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to technology and like talking online and everything.
Yeah.
So in my experience, yeah, it was very difficult to find something online to like or finding events that I could go to like using online.
Mm.
But for the majority, just like oh, I actually think it was Facebook is where I got everything from
Yeah.
for Melee. And so if I saw like anyone there, just like I think that's when I found out about Kent Combo.
For Lucci and stuff. So
Oh yeah, well now of course, yeah, it's just Star GG
Yeah.
with Barlucci. And it's yeah, it feels pretty much the same on like as like opposed to 5 years ago.
So it's definitely yeah, once like start GG like started happening, it is a little easier to kind of put things together, I guess. Not really held by the restrictions of a Facebook group. And you.
God, I mean, my first experience with Smash period was like, I don't know, I had to have been maybe like 5 or 6, and I was really, really excited because Super Smash Bros. Melee was the first rated T game I was allowed to have. My mother, and like, at some point, I'll have to pull out the physical copy, but my mother saved this little thing I wrote in grade school that was all about how I was so excited. I got a rated T game. It was Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. And she found the physical copy like maybe about 6 months ago. And she sent me a picture and she's like, "You really haven't changed at all, have you?" I'm like, but that was like my first experience, and it was just kind of like playing with friends growing up. I'm an only child, but I'm really close to one of my cousins. He lived down the street, and I remember my mother would take us to school, and he would come over in the mornings. And so for about 30 minutes to an hour every morning, we would just play Melee together.
Mm-hmm.
I never really ended up competing until I was like an adult. I like to joke that actually my first ever tournament I did play in was it was like a GameStop tournament for Brawl's release.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, you know, in typical GameStop tournament fashion, they made you use like the Wii remote and the nunchuck. There was no other options. You had to use that. But after that, until like we were talking and just getting in, like I was watching more. The next time I think I actually like competed was Riptide 2021.
Ooh.
So I guess like my first actual like Melee tournament was a major, I guess. We lost and we expected to. We did doubles because that was the only thing we can get into, I think, at that point. But it was just like a really fun experience, you know. Sandusky's an hour maybe from where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, you know, we're familiar with the Kalahari. It was an hour away, and it was just like cool to go out and mostly like hang. But that was like a really fun experience. And then now on occasion we'll like try to Barlucci on Tuesdays, but
that's kind of cool. Like I think so. Like my first in-person tournament was this place out in the San Fernando Valley. It was an ultimate tournament. Like I enjoy playing both. Like I also like started trying to learn a little bit of P+. So like I'm familiar with like at least in some way, shape, or form with all of the current Smash games. Not really HDR because I don't want to mod my Switch. But have y'all like seen any HDR before?
I actually think when it first came out, one of our buddies got HDR.
Really?
And so we toyed around with it a little bit. But it wasn't as like again, as you said, I'm not willing to break my Switch in order to have it run.
I think HBox was streaming it the other night with Max Ketchum. They were streaming HDR, and he's literally just doing all his Melee things in Ultimate. It was pretty fun to see. But yeah, so like my first in person was a tournament in the San Fernando Valley ran by this group called Dreamcatcher Gaming. And it was like their return back after they kind of got screwed over from a different tournament series that they tried to put together. Like the venue was actually a place I visited a lot in my punk days. It was actually a like music like practice space. I think it was called like the Sound Studio. So like you can like rent like a room per hour, and they have like a super sweet Pearl drum kit in the middle, or with double bass pedal attached or whatever, and all kinds of cool shit. Anyway, so they had their tournament there. They had their one, and it was like qualifying as a silver one event, I think, for the Ultimate side on the first year World Tour when they were bringing in-person events back. And now I'm like, yo, that's awesome. I'm going to go to that. And I'm going to go to the next one. Like the next week later, they were told that they can't bring people into that space anymore. So cut to probably about like 6 months later or 7 months later, or whatever time frame was, they bring back, I go there. They actually flew in Icy Mist, which is the Ultimate Samus player. They flew her out because their series was called Brinthstar Depths. So it's like, well, it makes sense. We're gonna bring out a Samus player. So they bring her out. And that was like my first one. Like, and like the funny thing about like seeing that tournament, like I went 0-2 because I knew I was going to. But like the funny thing about that was like there was like a handful of people who like looked at me a weird way. Not because like I seemed like I didn't belong. Because no one there looked like they really belonged. Like no, like when you had said like, oh, here's like that split of the crowd, and like some of these people who were at that show, they didn't look they would never want to be there. Like, they're just there for the Smash tournament or vice versa or whatever. Like, you couldn't tell like who was considered like the typical Smash player because I went there with like a band T-shirt and flannel and the same bandana. My brother rolled up wearing like this shirt that he bought, I think, from Primitive or whatever. There was a dude who looked like he just finished doing 800 reps, like he came from the gym while he's playing. Right? And there's just a big variety of people. But there's like one dude who actually came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, you used to go raves back in the day?" I was like, "No." But did you ever go to any backyard shows in like East LA and shit like that? And he goes, "You know, I did, and maybe that's why I think you look familiar, right?" So going back to like finding your tribe and then the crossover of that, like I went there with the intent really to just like hang out and like started documenting just like people, and I originally wanted to do this when I first started getting into it, and the first one I was going to go to was earlier on, and that was in March of 2020, which, as we all know, as when the world shut down for a bit. But yeah, that was my first tournament, and again, it gave like a little bit of a methadone, as I guess I want to say, of like not going to like a show for such a long time to like being at a tournament. It kind of gave a little bit of that pick me up high that I used to get from being at shows. Yeah, it's definitely since changed, and now I have to fucking plan super hard because I work a regular 9 to 5 and I live like an hour and a half away from where I work. So where does the Smash passion like kind of like cross over into eventually what you all are doing now with Knockout? Like was that always something that kind of like you had in the back of your mind a little bit? Again, was it just like a random like inspiration that hit? Like, did you ever have like interest in doing something like that before, or like where's that story come from?
I know at the time we had just been talking about doing something creative together. And I feel like in general, he and I can throw ideas about anything back and forth, and we'll, before disregarding the idea, at least like treat it as a real thing first and go, okay, but how will we do this? Even though if the idea is like pretty outlandish, and if it's like way too out there, then we'll just like play it off as a joke. But we had been just going like, hey, what if we made like a video game? And it's like, well, we don't have a lot of money and neither of us know how to code. That's probably not something we can do. And we talked about just like, I don't know, we tossed around a few ideas, I think. And then it's like, what if we kind of like built a group that would hopefully in time, we start with kind of merchandising and like building a kind of a brand. And then we take that and maybe hopefully somewhere down the line, we're able to fully sponsor a few people and let them travel to events, start sponsoring other events, and then see if we can get to a place where we're a little bit more flexible with other creative endeavors from it. But I know the one thing we kind of based our like project on is that we wanted to be able to create some kind of either create or really pull attention into communities and support communities however you want to consider that term. Be it, physical, online, or even kind of in like a metaphysical way, I guess. But also be able to like, how am I saying this? Like, bring people in. Get people to go, hey, I might be interested in this, but give them a reason to come out and let them find a group that they might enjoy. And that's kind of where we're at right now, I think, is kind of like that step in the our little project, which was a lot of Mike, actually, kind of what we're working on in from basically now until about, I think, May or so. The net play.
Yeah. Okay. No, I wasn't sure. That's the thing. Yeah. We're on May 20th. Yeah. Yeah. We're planning on, or we will be hosting a 2.5K net play like prize tournament, prize pool tournament there.
Ooh.
So yeah, basically, for first place gets a grand. And then down the list, we're just splitting up top 8.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy. How, like, obviously it didn't just like go from day one, all of a sudden, hey, now we're here. Now we're here. There's, I bet there's like a bunch of like trials and tribulations to kind of get to that point. But like, what do you consider like, not even your day one, like what do you consider like your day 0 with the project? And like, where did you see some of like those milestones that kind of eventually like let you get to this point? Because I think like right now that announcement is like your pinned comment on your Twitter. But like where's your day 0 and like what steps eventually, like in a relatively short period of time, it seems like, if I'm not mistaken, like allowed you to get to be able to do that?
I don't actually.
Maybe day 0, would that have been Genesis 8, or would that have been like?
Yeah.
Or would it have been like Ohio?
Genesis 8 or Riptide first? Which one came first?
Oh, I think it was Riptide. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Riptide 2021 was, I guess, day 0, I suppose. So again, we went and played in doubles, but we were mostly just gonna go out and like hang out. Again, it's pretty close. It was a major, and it was like one of the first majors back, after the pandemic started lightening up a bit. Or rather when in-person events started getting back. And we went 0-2 in doubles pretty much a solid 2 hours after we got in. And then we had basically 2.5 days to do stuff. And we accidentally, I think, threw a party. We met some folks from Chicago, and then had like a lot of people from Chicago in our room. And I think some of the NorCal guys, I want to say, Trip, I know he stopped by for a bit. The guy who does 69% apparel.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like kind of starting up. I know at the same time we talked a bit just to him, and that was fun. Gio and Just Joe, and basically a collection of those guys. And that was cool. We still talk to most of the people who were hanging out with us that night.
Yeah.
But I think it was like, God, speaking of weird stories, I remember it had to have been like, I want to say verging on 6 a.m. We were still awake. I'm pretty sure that there were still people in our hotel room.
Yes.
He and I went for a walk. We just decided to leave. And we ended up outside, and I remember kind of like looking at you and going like, dude, I think we could like do this. And I think we just like high-fived and maybe like screamed into the void, and then went back to like whatever was happening in our hotel room.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And like by do this, I'm still not really sure what I meant. Like I was pretty gone at that point. But I think that was like the 0, and then just like maybe like the day, 0.25 or something was just slowly getting integrated into the community and going to events and traveling. And the next thing we did was, for some reason, flights from Cleveland to San Jose were inexpensive for Genesis comparatively.
Yeah.
I think it was like a 250 round trip or something, which not bad. When I lived out in California, I was living in San Jose with my uncle.
Mhm.
And when they switched Genesis back to the San Jose Convention Center, when I was out there, I'd drive by there every single day to go to work. Well, the train station to go to work in San Francisco, but still saw it every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we wouldn't have to pay for a hotel. The tickets out there are cheap. Do you want to just like go?
Yeah.
And it was this really great experience. Like, I don't know, there's the idea that to travel across the country for, a hobby ? And we've just kind of kept doing that, I think. And then seeing like, hey, like we have some stuff. Let's try to like apply as a vendor. And then always like it's always a shock, I think, when we do get in like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But then, next year at Riptide in 2022, we got accepted to vend for the first time, and we were probably a bit underprepared, but that's the, the bumpy road on the way to getting settled.
Definitely.
And then somehow we got accepted for Big House, which again, about 2.5 hour drive. So that was cool. And we've just kind of been going along since then. The big one was, being able to vend to Genesis this past year. Logistically, that was really fun. Like having to get all this stuff out there. But we got saved, I think.
Yeah.
A buddy of ours, he's Army Reserves.
Okay.
And we found out he I don't know, I think I might have been drunk one night. And I'm like, hey, do you want to come to California with us? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then a few days later, he's like, I know you were, not completely sober. Was that a real question? I'm like, yeah, sure. Want to come? And he doesn't play Smash at all. He's like, it just sounds fun. I want to go to California. He came with us, but we found out at the airport he was allowed to check 3 bags for free because he was Army Reserves. We had 5 suitcases full of merchandise and like setup. So he saved us, I think, like combined total of like, I want to say like $180, almost $200.
Jesus, that's clutch.
Just trying to get the stuff out there. But
oh my god, that's good luck.
I feel like everything we do is like plagued by chaos.
Yeah.
That it's just, I never know if something's actually going well or not. I guess I'll say that.
Oh, that's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Keep stuff interesting, I guess.
Yeah. Like, so like that first like vending expense or vending event y'all did, like what like what was that like? Like, so your first like major experience, you were there. Your first experience there, you've actually had the chance to go O2 or whatever and hang out and chill. But like, how is that different from the vending event, like that vendor experience?
For Riptide and Big House, it felt more like work than anything now. Because like at least the previous year we went there, we enjoyed our time. We played friendlies, we just like watched matches, anything we can do. But with those events, like the same place where you would bend dead isn't in the same place where you would watch all the matches. So it felt more like, yeah, we are here for like a purpose. We're here to try to like get this merch out out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, if anything, it just feels more like a job whenever like bending like that.
Like, what was so my fiance sells things like at like vendor events from time to time, and like I had to I help her because she really got one person to as far as her crew, that's her. So I help load stuff up and set things up, and like, what's the difference between like, I guess, like experiencing that? Is it very much like I have to do this thing, I'm very much involved in the vending. I can't really necessarily enjoy seeing the whoever like IBDW going and taking stocks or whatever, or is it relatively casual, or at least for that first one?
I think
It still felt pretty casual, I'd like to say, because majority of the time, like you'd still be enjoying yourself, just like talking to anyone that would come by the booths. And honestly, I feel that that's a little bit better than just like watching some like the matches there. Just like talking to people and interacting with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
and it's still like part of the event, and I guess like being part of the event is like something that's cool. Um I don't really know how to explain it. It's just like we're here to, work, I guess, but and I think also in more recent stuff, Genesis in particular, we've been able to kind of work out, good times to have fun versus when we need to be doing things. And I think we've gotten to kind of a good balance where it still feels like we get to enjoy our time with
Mm-hmm.
the work and we still get to like be a part of the community. Um I think in general we've also been like really I'd say, like blessed with amazing friends who just straight out support us and help us. Um so Riptide 2022, we had two good friends of ours come with us, and so it was the point where we wanted to go play friendlies, or if somebody wanted to go do something, just go take a nap, do whatever. There was
Mm-hmm.
always somebody at the booth. Um, Same thing with Genesis this year. Our good friend of ours was helping us the entire weekend. He made so many sales for us, and we're not giving them anything. The most we could do is like, well, thankfully we were able to like reimburse our friend's plane ticket to Genesis. Like we made enough, and even after that, it was positive. But
Yeah.
we're like, you helped us. Like we have to do something. Just like
Yeah.
take our money, please. Um, but those, I think, like our friends, like just being supportive of us and wanting to, get involved has helped us so much. And that's even if we're not like, watching everything or being in the crowd or something, it's like you still get to like hang out in that environment, especially like with your friends. So that's
Yeah.
always a good time.
I remember one time um and this is going back to like my like some of my punk stories. It was did you ever have a chance, or do you know about the venue in Hollywood called the Knitting Factory?
I feel like I've heard of that.
So the Knitting Factory is like, again, it's one of those like, it's not in that immediate strip of like the famous, like the Whiskey and the Viper Room and all that stuff, but it's a little further, tad north of there, kind of like in Hollywood, like the actual like where the actual Walk of Fame is, Sunset and Vine, all that jazz. Um, there was a show that we were going to go to. There was a band called Mata Mosca who was going to be there, and we're like, oh my god, they're coming back after like a 6-year hiatus. Let's go see them. And them and a bunch of other bands. So we go there. We're having a good time, and we go talk to the guy who's vending, and it's actually the singer. His name's Badia. And we're talking to him, chatting him up, and he goes, "Hey man, I don't think you're gonna steal from me, right?" And I go, "No, I won't. I swear. Hey, can you take over? Here's the lockbox. There's the prices. Don't worry about it. Cool." I'm there, and it's weird because I went there to just like buy a sticker or like a CD, and he walks off, and he's and I'm like, well, I guess I'm technically in charge right now, while these other bands are playing, and they're like, this is a weird experience. He comes back like 2 songs in, and he goes, anybody buy anything? No, man, I was hoping someone would buy something. All right. Hey man, here's an extra sticker for helping me out. Like, thanks. I slapped it on my brother's like Xbox, and he's like, all right, cool, it can match my other sticker. Or something like that. Yeah, I like for right now, like what I'm doing, I go to events kind of now, not really to compete at all. I literally just talk to people. Like the most recent event I went to was the return of MSM at MSM 0. And when you go there to like not compete, it feels a little different, because it's like you have to have a purpose to be there. I mean, yeah, there's people who want to do the friendlies or like sit down and watch the projector, and see like, oh, let's see this box Kazuya just like 0 to death a dude like 4 times or 3 times in a row. But like I'm also walking around with a GoPro and like a little lav mic, asking people, hey man, do you have like a spare like 5 to 10 minutes to talk about your experiences here? So far no one has said no. Well, actually, no, I lied. There was one guy who said no. He's like, sorry, man, I get really camera shy. I'm like, oh, it's fine. I have my controller. Do you want a best of 5? He's like, okay. And then I proceed to get fucking get 3-0'd. But yeah, it's a weird experience to be at a tournament and not actually be there to compete. So that was your that's cool. That's cool about your Genesis thing. Like, at what point like did you think about like your ventures that you're doing this and be like, hey, this is becoming much more viable for our end goal? Like, so like sometime between, I guess, like that was, you said for Riptide for 2020 or 2022 to like then eventually Genesis, and now you kind of are starting to really hit that, starting to make those strides and like being like that community center point, because like you said, you're gonna have a whole net play tournament where you're giving away all this money. Like, where did that jump come from? Like, and again, it was such a short period of time from when you started.
So the jump mainly came from just like, we had so much support at Genesis 9. Like, I am still pretty flabbergasted with like how nice and welcoming like everyone was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if anything, it's a way to just be like, thank you guys for just being awesome.
And one of our goals, I mean, when we started this, was that we just wanted to put money back into smaller communities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess that's one thing. It's kind of like we don't need, I guess, like it would be really cool, I guess, to not have the big groups, all of the majors where you can make some money for playing Smash, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is kind of like our decision making. He texted me out of the blue, I think, somewhere that was like, let's host a net play tournament. I'm like, okay. And then the next couple days later, I'm gonna drop $1,000 on it. Okay. And then, I don't know, I was at work one day not doing anything at the time, and I did the math, and I'm like, "Do these numbers look good? Like, if you want number 1 to get $1,000, this is kind of, based on Genesis 9 winning percentage rates," and then it
Mhm.
became 2,500, and
Yeah.
that's sadly enough, it's, like, not most of our, like, ideas are like, "Hey, what if we did this?" Okay. Like,
The wouldn't it be cool effect. Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool
we
if
have, like, a Discord server that's basically, us and then people who have helped us out. And a lot of it is like truthfully shit posting just between like 6 people. But
nice.
we have a thread in there, I guess, called Idea Jar. Because when he and I were originally talking about, merch ideas or future things, we'd go, we can't do this right now, go toss it in the idea jar. We'll play with it later. Well, we decided to keep all of this in one area. So now it's a mess. I probably like 9 out of 10 things that get posted there are stupid. Like,
Never gonna happen.
I think HBox body pillows have been suggested like 8 times.
Listen, listen. We all know body pillows are already a huge idea already. All right. I know a guy who runs a small comedy record label, and he's been looking into body pillows for his podcast. I can find out for y'all.
But, every once in a while we have like an actual idea get put in there and we're like, okay, but wait, like we could maybe work on this. Or we'll scroll back through. Like our little tournament name was a good friend of ours and my roommate who was bored at work and going, I'm gonna come up with tournament names for you. And then he just sent them for about an hour and a half straight. And we're like, oh no, this one's actually really good. Let's go with that one.
And for those who don't know, what is that tournament name that you're going with?
Knock out with your stocks out.
That's great.
It makes me happy. I'm happy that
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna find that and I'm gonna put it in the description of this live. So like whenever anyone wants to like look at it, they can find it. That's great. Like, did the money just come from like all of like the Genesis sales and everything, or was like there like it's like this is coming out of your own pocket, or like is there like any additional sponsor
No, it's,
involved?
no, if I'm being honest, I'm putting extra hours in that work to like make it so that I'm comfortably able to give away 2.5K. So that's where the money's coming from.
He's been working serious overtime for like the past month plus.
Oof.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh man. See, when I had to work overtime is because we had bad staff and and I had to cover the hours. See, when you work armed security and there's very unreliable people and it's hard to get people who can get armed and then be armed and want to stay there and also not call off and be willing to work graveyard. Like, it's hard to find those people. I, as a result, have to work 12 to 14 hours if that other person doesn't feel like coming in on time. Or at least that's how it was. That was my old job, but I couldn't fathom needing to do, or want. Well, again, I guess you're doing it for something that like y'all were saying, like to give back. Like if you're doing it for a good reason, passion's no reason not to do it. Unless you're like me, kind of spiteful that you had to, but I was thinking to myself, like, man, like, because I looked back and tried to find like someone like your merch ideas, and like I showed a coworker of mine. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be talking to these folks this weekend. Look, this is them vending. I don't remember where you were vending, and I had shown him like your merch setup, and the first thing that he noticed was like, yo, are those Papa John's logos? It's like, no. They say Melee and Ultimate. He goes, yo, that's super cool. Like, do like the merch ideas kind of come from like the same place, or like do it like from that same like little idea jar, or like was there like a plan, like I want to have something that says this or a reference from that, like where did those come from, and like who actually comes up with like creating the graphics for it?
Oh,
Mm.
she comes up with all of the graphics for them.
I'll I have it's weird to say I have a background in this, but I've always just kind of like drawn a lot growing up.
Mhm.
And then as I got older, I started doing freelance art, like commission work and stuff. Here and there, beer money in college, sometimes if I needed a little bit extra for rent, like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it was something I was able to kind of just do in my own time. And I guess like eventually I taught myself how to use different programs, and what terms meant. And it's like funny because like on a resume I could put down at this point in my life, I think I'm 13 years of like
Mm.
Photoshop and Adobe Creative Suite experience, at the age of 25. And I think people probably think I'm like lying, but I've been using Photoshop. Like I think I had like CS3, when I was like 12 or 13.
Dang.
Um, and I,
CS3?
I used a friend gave me a copy that might not have been completely legal, but
Allegedly.
I used that until I had to get a new computer, I think. Like I used that, God, until I was a sophomore in college. I used PS3. And I was so mad that I wasn't able to run it on a new computer.
Mm.
But yeah. And so again, it's kind of like a joint effort coming up with things, but I'll like sketch something up, and then if we want to take it forward, I'll end up like rendering it in Illustrator, and I try to prep all the files for our printing companies that we use, so it's like a little bit easier process. It
Mhm.
doesn't take long to like vectorize images and just make it clean. So yes, yeah, it's all a joint effort. Like they'll all look at it and go like, "What if you did something else?" And it's maybe something I didn't see and stuff. But the Papa John's ones, those are
Yeah, I think that was just another that was the night at Big House, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Mm.
That we came up with that.
I don't
It
remember.
was not, well, so I my first job ever was working at Papa John's. And so I just have like a bunch of like Papa John's merch already with me. And then at Big House, I was just like putting on my actual like Papa John's like crew neck. And then I was like looking down, I was like, what if this said Smash on it? It was just like, well, what if this was just like a Smash thing? And then I think that's when,
And then
yeah.
because I also remember the first time we went to Genesis, there's in San Jose, there's this place called Santana Row. It's like a lot of little shops and stuff.
Mm.
But when I lived out there, I went to El Jardín, which is this tequila bar in the center of the street. Really, really good drinks, top shelf tequila. It's good, really good food. And we were gonna like treat ourselves and just have a night. And we were not. We were just a little bit more casually than most of the other people at this location. And
Yeah, so as a joke for like the our first Genesis, I like it was the first time that like Papa John's was sponsoring like a major Smash tournament.
Mhm.
So I thought it was fun if I wore my Papa John's uniform from like a while back ago. And so I had on just like khakis, a black belt, my like black Papa John's polo, and a Papa John's hat. And then we go to this fancy ass place, and then I'm there looking like that someone just
Just got off
disrespect the
work.
company and ordered Papa John's.
He was dressed like a Papa John's employee. I think I had on like a Hawaiian shirt or something like that. And every other person, it's like, you know, a lot of the women were wearing like cocktail dresses and stuff. All the guys had like, the polo button-up shirts or dress shirts on, and we're sitting there like looking at each other, going like, "We're really out of place. Like, we don't belong here." And funnily enough, we didn't, make any efforts to change when we went back to this place this past Genesis. So
It was time to double down on it.
I think we've had like kind of a running joke about just the Papa John's hoodie or crew neck, I guess, that he wore, and like typically wears at Smash events, and so sometimes it just, a lot of like little inside jokes or things like that are like, actually, this might be fun. And we work with a really good printing company nearby us that just does a really good job on pretty much everything we bring to them. So
What was that first, if you remember, what was like that first like design, and that kind of like, hey, I think we're gonna be able to run with this like for real.
Oh, the Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
By far the Hawaiian shirts.
It's kind of what we've, I guess, been known for at this point,
Yeah.
which not a bad thing at all.
No, God, no.
And that was just we had to come up with some ideas to start, when we were kind of first formatting this. And I was, at the time in California. And I remember I was just like doodling like on my tablet in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like Super Mario Sunshine, a Hawaiian shirt, that would be cool. Was playing with repeating patterns on Photoshop or something, and it's worked out pretty well.
I'm trying to remember who's someone had actually found it. It was like was it I think someone had mentioned it to the Mario player Dark Wizzy.
Oh.
We used to joke that like before we started officially bending at stuff, we were, going for like marketing or something. It's like a promotional event, I think we would joke. But after we got those like printed, I think in general, like he and I don't watch or really follow a ton of Ultimate anymore. But I really like watching Dark Wizzy play. He's like one of my more favorite players to watch. I think his Mario's really cool. He seems like a really, really, good person at heart too, which just makes me happy. And I remember we made those, and I'm like, this just looks like him, like this shirt, And so we decided to bring a couple of extras to Genesis, and we're like, why don't you just like give one to him? I think we had like come back from having a couple of drinks at that tequila bar, and we're just like, here, like these are for you if you have a sec. We gave him 2 of them. I think he gave one to DeBuzz.
Yeah.
I also remember trying to pull out a business card and then accidentally just grabbing a stack of Pokemon cards instead and going like, I think it's fine.
Yes, that's exactly the kind of. So you were the ones that actually like introduced that to him then, because I remember him seeing it, like saying, "Hey, this super cool shirt," and I was like, "Oh shit!" It's super awesome. I think another milestone is like, now that you're reaching that, like, do you think you're kind of at the beginning of where you think you want to take not just, the merch line, but like the overall project? Do you think you're finally like seeing everything come together, or like do you still see like a couple of more stops before you can think that or that you can feel that like everything's kind of coming to fruition the way you want it to?
I'd say at the moment it feels like comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable is a good word for it.
It's like, yeah, in my brain, it's like it felt like either we were personally unsure, just like insecure maybe, or we like, and I joke, I feel like I never know what I'm doing, no matter what it is. Like, I always feel like I'm completely clueless and I'm just stumbling through everything. But I think we're getting to the point where it's like some of the parts are starting to fall into place and we're starting to get into habits and we're starting to go, all right, you can do these things, I'll do these, we'll check back on this day, we're going to have a meeting this day. These, like, this is a docket of things to discuss, and we're getting, I think, more in the habit of just going like, we can have a lot of fun with this, we do have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But there's things we got to take care of and we could roll with it, and when we do, we feel like we push it further. And so there's always going to be, I think, something else, or like, I don't know about
Yeah.
you, but I'm always like but what if we did this next? What if we did this? And I don't know if there's ever like a stopping point.
Ideally, yeah, it just keeps growing, and then we just like branch out to do like one of the millions of things in the idea jar.
And then take over the world, probably.
Yeah, and then take over the
world. Someone in the
that's
tip jar is like, yes,
cool.
yes, exactly.
Oh yeah. We made this like there was one night that he was over and we were up until I think like 7 o'clock in the morning. And we had this like 7-step plan on how to create a cult and that we were going to take over the state of Ohio. It was more fleshed out than you'd think. And I'm not really sure if I'm still not sure if it was a joke or not.
Oh, the conversation you have that goes straight through the night. Yes. Cult steps 1 through 4 involve.
It was like, take over Ohio, get our good friend and my roommate into politics, and then eventually have him be president, I think.
Yeah.
That was like
started off and it's like, yo, who's the person in the group like most likely to become president? I was just like,
Scott.
Yeah, Scott by far. we found our man.
We had it like written down. We talked about it for maybe 2 hours straight. We found land that we were like looking at buying in a county near Columbus, Ohio that has the lowest population in all of Ohio. So likewise, the land was really cheap.
I remember exactly how this conversation started now. Oh my goodness. No, we were watching that documentary of like the
there's a documentary called Wild Wild Country. It was like really popular for a while on Netflix. But it is like about this one cult that takes over, what is it, like, not Oklahoma, one of the like southwestern states, or like central southwest. I don't know what that area of the United States is really called. But it was like a real thing that happened, and it's actually kind of like weirdly creepy. But then I think we were just like, we could start a cult. Anyway, I think it's a joke, but
as far as you know,
our end goal actually.
Order of operations, body pillows, cult.
All right. Maybe I shouldn't ask that guy the body pillow information. Apparently, from what I understand, it's cheaper than you think. I could still ask him. This is Rad is that podcast that he does. Kyle Clark is his name. Kyle Clark is Rad on Instagram and Twitter if you want to find him and ask him, say, hey, I heard you've been doing research on body pillows. What information can you give us? The fact that I saw the Sharpie open. Again, they threatened to release body pillows of him and his co-host Matthew Burnside. He's the one who's from Ohio. I don't remember where, but yeah, apparently the town that that township that he's from got super excited when someone made a hill. He was in a ska band many years ago. He played trumpet for it. It was called Jamaican Bacon.
A really good band name.
I am surprised to this day no one has found any of their music, but supposedly it exists somewhere. And even after all of these years since when he first announced it, no one from the This Is Rad fandom has found his old ska band. But it will happen one day. You hear that? Gang, this was really cool. It's really awesome. It's cool to hear from people who are so far away from where I'm at, and kind of like learn about them, and especially like projects like this. It's super cool. I want to end the night, and maybe hopefully y'all can get to that show. It's a little different than Oates. When we had to cut our things short, he forgot he was going to go see Modest Mouse when our conversation. so he had to go do that. But I want to end this the way I've been kind of ending this with all the past couple of ones, and it's like random rapid fire questions. Between the both of you, 5 and 5, you can ask me anything, and I'll try to ask 10 questions to y'all. So we 10 on your side, 10 on my side. Just whatever it is you can think of. Doesn't have to be Smash, doesn't have to be music, can be if you want, but whatever it is. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. If y'all want to ask first, or if you want me to ask.
I'm gonna confer with him for one moment on a couple of questions.
Here, I'm gonna go ahead and let a question rip right out the gate.
Okay.
What's your go-to order at Papa John's?
Ooh. It's usually their stuffed crust, with half cheese and the other half pepperoni and sausage. And if we don't get it as a stuffed crust, it will be still just half cheese, half pepperoni and sausage.
Okay. That's a classic. Can never go wrong with that. Hold up,
Yeah.
I'm reading these now.
It looked like I was writing more than I did.
I like how the first one was pizza topping, and I already just asked that one.
We were on the same wavelength.
All right. Well, what else you got? What else you got?
If you could be one celebrity for a day, who would you be?
If I could be one celebrity or meet one celebrity?
Yeah, like take over their life completely. You look like them. You are them for 24 hours. Who would you be?
Oh God. Honestly, just because I am someone who likes to talk ad nauseum, and I don't know if you consider them a celebrity, but the streamer Hasanabi.
Okay.
I'd be Hassan,
I think
because
he's popular enough to be considered that.
yeah, exactly. I'd probably want to be Hassan, and it would literally be because I don't know when to shut up sometimes. So yeah, there you go, Hassan. All right, what else you got?
Oh, I'm gonna steal that question from you. What is your favorite Smash game, and who do you main from that Smash game?
Man, that is a hard question. So I don't know which one I like more, Melee or Ultimate. Because PM's real cool. HDR, I don't know too much about. God. I think just because, even though I love Melee, I know a little bit more about Ultimate, so I'm just gonna go with the Ultimate. And I'm a Bowser Min main.
Bowser Min, okay. I really like the way that Min plays. I think it's very, very creative and cool.
Yeah. There. All right, what else you got?
Well, I had a good one, but it's like, oh yeah.
Oh.
Currently, Who is your favorite musician, band, or artist?
It's funny because it probably hasn't changed from like 15 years ago when I was in high school, but it's probably the band Mata Mosca.
Okay.
Mata Mosca. So Mata Mosca, they started in like 2001, or no, they started in 2000, I want to say. 2001, something like that. I've seen them so many times. Their singer knows my brother a little bit. And it's funny, when they went to do a show up in NorCal, my brother went to see him. And at this point, been like 3 years since we saw Mata Mosca. And he went to go see him. The singer still recognizes my brother. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I'm studying engineering." And he goes, "Okay, here's some career advice." And he gave him career advice because he also got his degree in electrical engineering, I want to say, out of UCLA. He like won like this like statewide like contest to like build a pinball machine. Yeah, crazy shit. Yeah, for a multitude of reasons, it's probably Mata Mosca. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what number we're at. I want to say we're at 5.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not sure if you already went over this, but where did you go to school at, and what was your major?
So I got scammed out of out of my college degree. Tech, according to the US government, I was scammed by ITT Tech. And I got a bachelor's in criminal justice.
Okay, cool. I have
Yeah.
a bachelor's in forensics.
Really?
Uh,
Wait, how'd you get a bachelor's in forensics? Like what science did you study before you got the forensics?
oh, just my college degree is a bachelor's degree in forensic science and anthropology. I had like a
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I was about to say, it's like, wow, that's wild. But yeah, I got scammed out of that. But according to the U.S. government, I was scammed, and therefore I don't have to pay my student loans anymore.
Hey.
Hey, fuck you, IT Tech. All right, what else you got?
God, I'm at a loss. Do you have anything? I'm trying to make it more fun than just like,
Well, what's your favorite color?
damn it.
Red. It's always been red growing up. It's always been red growing up.
What are your opinions on box controllers?
Oh, so honestly, I think box controllers are a great way for people to actually make their way into the Smash community. There's a guy, I forgot his name, but if you go to keyboard.gg, he actually has an adapter that allows you to use any keyboard, and it reads it as a controller for the Nintendo Switch. And you can, instead of paying, $250 for a box controller, you can pay $100 for this adapter, and it works just as well. And it works with any keyboard. So as far as I'm concerned, box controllers are great for accessibility. They're great for people to like not fuck up their hands. um and if you think they're cheating, I think that's called a skill issue.
That's fair enough.
So that back when I was playing Rivals of Aether, I actually was a keyboard main for Rivals.
Whoa.
Only because I couldn't get my adapter to be hooked up properly, so it's just keyboard for it.
See, there you go. Totally not cheating.
Other than Smash, are there any other like video games series or anything like that you're into?
Probably the games. There's 2 game series I enjoyed the most throughout my lifetime for different reasons. Gears of War, because that was the game me and all my friends played all the time. in high school. Like, yeah, Halo was like huge popular, but I really enjoyed Gears of War. And Borderlands because that was like the first game me and my brother like really like sunk a bunch of time into together. Like probably my most intense gamer day was I woke up, I went into his room, he was watching TV while being on the laptop. I was just sitting on this floor while watching whatever he was watching on TV, even though I could have just done that in my own room. And I said, "Hey man, do you want to play Borderlands?" Like, yeah. We played for about 7 hours, went to go get lunch, came back and played for another 8 hours. And I think by the time we were done, it was like 11:30. It's like, all right, man, it was a good day. Fist bump, and then I went to bed. So yeah, those are my two favorite game series. All right, final two questions.
Do we dare ask if a hot dog is a sandwich?
You were free to ask that question.
So this has been a pretty like high impact philosophical debate for like for a pretty long time.
Yes.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I think the problem
I've
is
got my answer. I'm about to shatter your world once once you say your answer.
I think the problem with that question is it depends on the type of hot dog and your methodology of eating it that would allow it to be a sandwich or not. Like, if you're having like I've never eaten one, but like a Chicago dog is basically a fucking burger that's sideways, right? And like, why would that be considered like a regular ass sandwich? The way I see it is, there's an argument my fiance had with me. So even though my fiance is also, even though she's also Latina, she's like third generation born in the United States, whereas I'm first generation born in the United States. So culturally, she's a lot further removed. Now, there's a type of sandwich called a torta. And the problem is, it can also be something kind of different. To her, a torta, in a sense, is what you would go to a Mexican restaurant and it has beans, sometimes rice, meat, and cilantro, onions, and occasionally a little bit of cheese. And it's toasted, and that's how you have it. What blew her mind was when my brother asked, "Hey, do you want a torta?" And she goes, "Yes." And she gets what she just calls a sandwich. It's like, no. This is a torta. It still counts as a torta. And he goes, "No, there's no carne asada. There's no beans." I'm like, listen, you asked for torta, it's the same thing. So I'm going with that logic. It depends on how you're eating it. I'm not going to be able to say which ways makes it a sandwich versus not.
That's a good answer. That was a really good answer.
But let me hear your thing real quick before we move on to the last question.
So my logic behind it is if you remove the bun from a hot dog, you still have a hot dog.
That is correct.
It's
That
not
is
a
indeed
sandwich.
correct. Yeah. I can see that logic. I can see that logic. And I also see the disdain in your face for agreeing with it. All right.
I don't think we should be asking any more questions.
I guess just for funsies, are you planning on going to any in-person like events, any big majors in the upcoming future?
I'm probably going to go to Wave Dash in June. It's not too far from, relatively speaking, it's not too far from where I'm at. That's actually where MSM Zero is hosted every other week. I'm probably going to see if I can apply as media. And I can just shoot a DM to Jerry and asking him, hey, man, do I qualify as media? Again, I knew that guy when he was a freshman in high school. So I might be able to get away with it. But yeah, Wave Dash is where I plan on going. Hopefully main stage still happens. I don't know if that's still going to happen. The whole thing with BTS and everything. But if that happens, I probably want to go to that as well. But yeah, those are my two majors that I plan on going to. So if you plan on going to Wave Dash,
we I don't want to say a ton, but we might have something in the works that would allow us to hang out for a bit there.
Yo, that's awesome. All right. Okay. I gotta. Let me see if hopefully I don't repeat any questions. Who has the best fast food fry? Like chain fast food, local chain fast food.
Oh. Does Penn Station count? I really like Penn Station.
I don't know what that is, but sure, let's go with that.
Oh.
Regional?
I have no idea.
If you have differing opinions, it's fine.
I think McDonald's. That's the thing. You can never go wrong with a French fry. So whenever I get French fries, I'm always just happy. So yeah, I'd go with McD's only because you can get them pretty much anywhere.
True. The same for you. Is that what you agreeing with that?
I don't know when the last time I had French fries from a fast food place at all. I can't remember. I don't even know what that tastes like. I don't think salt. Tastes like salt.
No, it's like a
90% salt, 10% potato. Austin's favorite.
All right. What's one shirt idea that you had to reject the other person bring up? Or merch idea you felt like you had to veto or reject?
Do we have the beer koozies?
I don't have one on. You fumble through a lot of things when you start. This all it looks bad, and it's one of those. I feel like we can joke about it, but I'm like, man, am I really happy somebody told us about this and we fixed it before anything happened. So aesthetically, shortening knockout to KO, we thought would be cool for prefix sponsors, I guess, on Star GG, stuff like that.
Mm.
Well, one of our big concept at the beginning was, stuff with hands, the double fists, stuff like that, right? And
I'm getting ahead of you, but go ahead.
We originally had a logo that was a KO, like the OK hand sign. Well, we found out really soon after that was kind of like a white supremacist symbol. They were a white power symbol hand sign. And so we happened to find out literally, I don't know what, 2 days after we spent a bunch of money getting clothing tags and business cards.
Not like this.
It was literally my cousin who runs the punk show is like, you might be mistaken, and it doesn't help that our colors are red, black, and white.
No, I just realized that.
Anyway, that's the. We can laugh about it now, but we almost made a really big oopsie.
Oh no!
And yeah, that one, the not okay.
The not okay KO. Oh god, that's awesome. Ooh, okay. Let's see if I can think of a Smash one now. I guess it's not technically Smash, but are there too many weebs in Smash?
I think there's too little weebs in Smash. I think we need more.
Yeah, Smashers are like kind of cool nowadays.
That's a good one. Oh man. All right. What? Oh, do you remember if the first person you sold anything to came back with anyone?
Oh.
Technically, the first person we sold anything to was a good friend of ours, so I'm not going to consider that an answer. Phil was the first person to ever buy a Hawaiian shirt. I don't know. I honestly don't know if I could tell you what the first thing we actually officially sold at an event was. I'm going to assume a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was a Hawaiian shirt as well.
I don't think so. I think that's going to be the answer. I don't think so.
Follow-up question. I'm going to use this as one of my questions. Have you had anyone return, like, and see you from another one, another space?
Like we had someone like return something to like exchange for like a different size.
Yeah, there was a small printing error, I think, on one of like our tank tops that had like a little bit of black on it or something, but we just switched it out. It wasn't like a "you lied, I hate this" kind of thing. Like, yet, keyword being yet, but like.
Okay. Ooh. A year from now, do you think you'll be able to sponsor at least a regional based on your current trajectory?
Yes.
Ooh. Follow-up side question. Where?
I think in Ohio.
Northeastern Ohio would probably be it. Again, I don't know if it's kind of like a hush-hush, but we do have plans to sponsor a local event during the summer. It should be a regional event.
Nice. Ooh. Juicy. All right. What beverages? I'm gonna go with beverages, not like drinks. What normal beverages, non-alcoholic, does Ice Cubes not belong in?
Milk.
Yeah, milk.
That is true. I don't think it gets better than
As
that
a
one.
personal thing, I don't really care for ice cubes in anything except for like water, flavored water, that kind of thing. I just don't like how it kind of waters stuff down. Unless, yeah, if I wanted to water something down, because I don't really care for super sweet things, I'll just like put water in it, not ice.
If you like drinking Gatorade, like freeze the actual flavor into ice cubes, so when you pour it and it doesn't water it down, it Gatorades it up. What was the longest you've all been snowed in, if that's happened to you in recent memory?
So I went to school in upstate New York. Basically Syracuse, New York, which is about 2.5 hours northeastern of like Buffalo. Those were the worst winters I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oof.
I'm 5'9". There would actually yearly be snow, like, and I'm not talking like they shoveled and there's like a pile of it, but just normally snow on your front lawn
Just
that would go up past my waist. And I remember I was living in an off-campus apartment at one point, and we were supposed to get really bad snow. I opened the door, and there was just snow right up to the door that was at least, at my belly button area. And I remember sitting there staring at it and going, no, I'm not doing this. Classes weren't canceled. I don't know how I was supposed to get anywhere. Nothing was shoveled, but I'm like, I'm just not doing this today. And it stayed that way for about a week. Eventually, had to try to shovel something.
Yeah.
I know the next year, it was the day I was going to leave and drive back to Cleveland for Thanksgiving. I was done with classes. My roommates were at class. I couldn't get my car out of the driveway because there was 3 feet of snow. And this was the first time it had snowed heavily all year. We realized we didn't have a snow shovel in this house. And again, I'm the only one home at this time. And we all are trying to leave for Thanksgiving as soon as my roommates get home from class. So I decided to suck it up, and I grabbed one of those like small rectangle recycling bins that we had, and I shoveled the driveway with that. It was very dense snow. That was fun. Eventually, I was like done with the whole thing. I was like sweating my ass off. It was like 2.5 hours. One of my roommates finally like is coming back from class, and she's like, "Why didn't you just ask our neighbors?" Like they're standing there with a snow shovel, watching you suffer, and I'm like, you can say thank you, like. But that was definitely like the worst I've ever dealt with as far as snow. I think in Ohio though we get more. It's so cold to go outside kind of days rather than snow. Like so cold that the ice, you can't get rid of the ice because of like it's too cold for the salt to work kind of days.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, I don't remember the last time that the snow here was so bad that like you couldn't really like leave. I think we only had a day like that once last year, but it was cleared up by like 9 a.m.
Okay.
Christmas was kind of rough. Bad streets because it was so
Yeah,
cold,
but I
that's
think
fun.
people usually stay in on Christmas, so it was like beautiful out. Christmas is the only time where I'll accept snow.
I live in Southern California. I'm not going to accept snow no time. What the unless it's happening on a weekend and I'm planning on being home all day. Okay, I got 2 more questions. Let's see if I can get them. Okay. Is there a band, artist of any kind that you don't feel comfortable admitting that you still like their music from childhood?
I feel I can come out and say this now because they've actually been popping off, but I did actually like the Jonas Brothers back when they started out. But I couldn't really say that at the time.
I think it's my like guilty pleasure music, and I keep telling him this if we ever get to go to Vegas for an event, I want to go see if I can see one of their shows, but my guilty pleasure music is Billy Idol, like all the way through.
That's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad, but I think that's most of it. I listen to like a lot of musicals on occasion that I don't want anyone to know I listen to.
When you said Billy Idol, I immediately just thought Billie Eilish.
No.
And then I was like, wait, that's not right at all.
People love Billie Eilish.
No, dude, like the white hair.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember. It's clicking down.
It's like
this lip. Where are you? More. Okay. Final question. Ooh. I'm gonna go with a deep philosophical question too. How many holes does a straw have? How many holes does a straw have?
One. I'm gonna go with one.
Okay.
Hmm. See, this is it's tricky because if you like take the straw and you just like bend it and then seal it up, then like there is two, but no, it's one. It's one hole. It's one.
Because I'm saying
Yeah.
if you take like a straw, but you just flat,
Well, yeah. If you just
there's
like
one.
if you just take a single thing of like Swiss cheese and you like drill a hole in it, it's a single
How
hole
are you
in it.
drilling holes in cheese?
Well, Swiss cheese has the holes.
It has the holes naturally. You don't drill it.
Yeah. Well, when you count the holes, if there's like yeah, it's only one. Yeah, it's one hole.
One hole.
One hole. All right.
Of course.
In case you're wondering, I agree. I get people by saying it's one hole with two openings. There you go.
Oh, that's confusing.
Yeah.
It's one hole. It's one hole that goes through and through, but there's two openings to get into the hole and coming out of it. There you go. One hole, two openings. Oh my god. Gang, thank you for taking the time. I know at this point it's like 8:30 for y'all. It's 5:30 over here for me. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's cool hearing about like what y'all have done, and the hopes are you can keep doing it, and you can just make your way over here to SoCal and we can actually say hi in person. We'll see.
Very much looking forward to it.
We'll see how that turns out, gang. Is there any any shout outs, any kind of thank yous, anything you wanna tell anyone that's gonna be watching this later on, while you still have the chance, like what do you got before we say our real goodbyes?
I mean, big shout outs to Oates for just connecting us. And, I didn't say this before, but he was like one of my favorite parts of Genesis this past year, just like being able to get to know him a bit and find out what he does. And just, talking to him and stuff was really, really great. He introduced us to like some awesome people in the community. So big shout outs to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge shout out to Oates. Very excited to see everyone at future events. To whoever's watching, please check out Frecky Smash on twitch.tv. What am I able to say that? And in addition, on Tuesday nights they stream Barlucci.
All right.
I think at like 7:30ish Eastern time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah,
awesome.
it's a cool weekly.
It's a fun one.
Hopefully we can get that word out. Again, guys, thank you, gang, for everything that you've done. I'm gonna leave y'all to it. It's only 8:30 over there. You can still probably hit that show if you want to. So thank you. So once again, I can't say thank you enough. All right, gang. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Have a good one.
Goodbye. Oh man. There we are, gang. We are done with our conversation with the folks of Knockout. It was super awesome. They were super cool. The hope is you get a chance to see some of their stuff. Their stuff will be linked in the description. we'll have a chance to hopefully to meet if they come on down this way and we go to Wave Dash or something and say hi to them. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for stopping by for whatever amount of time you were here. I want to give a shout out to Oates, like they said. A general shout outs to both of them from Knockout. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. I do want to say that the next one's probably going to be in May. It's real cool who we have lined up. If we do this some more, which we will, I'm going to try to get some more people who aren't necessarily the names you might not necessarily think of. But we're going to cut it. We're going to end it there. Yeah, other than just thanks. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.